Hey everybody, Mrs. Dalton here. Today's video is multiplying fractions word problem practice. So make sure you are working out the problems along with me. There will be a quiz on Edmodo this week over this material. So remember that multiplication is the simplest of all fraction operations, since all you have to do is multiply your numerators and get that product, and then multiply your denominators and get that product, and then simplify. So there are four different multiplying questions you're going to see with fractions. One of them that you may see is multiplying a fraction by a whole number. And all you've got to do there is you have to rewrite the whole number as a fraction with the whole number as the numerator, the top number, and 1 as the denominator, or your bottom number. Then you multiply the numerator straight across, and then you multiply the denominator straight across, and then you simplify. Now simplify can mean two things. It can mean if the fraction is proper, that you will simplify the numerator and the denominator by the largest number that will divide evenly into both until you get the smallest numerator and denominator. Simplify also means if your fraction is improper, that you will turn it into a mixed number with your fraction simplified as low as it will go. Okay, so here's our first word problem with fractions multiplying by whole numbers. So we've got a cookie recipe that calls for 3/4 tablespoon of salt, and Hugo plans to make 10 batches of the cookies. How much salt will he need? Okay, so the question is underlined. How much salt will he need? I'm sorry, I'm kind of working backwards in cubes. C is make sure you circle your numbers and your units. So we've got 3/4 tablespoon of salt, and we've got 10 batches of cookies. And we're going to box our math words, our math action words, and they aren't really there, but because he's making 10 batches, the recipe calls for 3/4 tablespoon. We would assume that the 3/4 goes with one batch. So we're going to be multiplying in this problem. That's our evaluate, and then we're going to solve this problem. So we're going to take 3/4 times 10. But we got to make that 10 look like a fraction, so we're going to rewrite it as 3/4 times 10 over 1, and then we're going to multiply straight across. 3 times 10 is 30, and 4 times 1 is 4, and now we have an improper fraction. So now we're going to simplify, which means we're going to turn it into a mixed number. We're going to take 30 divided by 4, and 4 will go into 30 7 times. 7 times 4 is 28, and subtract. And we're going to get a remainder of 2. So then our mixed number is 7 and 2/4. But our fraction isn't simplified, but we know that since they're both even, we can divide by 2. Keep your whole number of 7, and your fraction simplifies to 7.5. Okay. Another problem you're going to see with multiplying fractions is multiplying a fraction times a fraction. This is the easiest because all you have to do is multiply the numerator straight across and the denominator straight across, and then simplify. So yesterday, the town of Harrington received 7/8 inch of snow. Today, the town received 2/3 of yesterday's amount. How much snow fell in Harrington today? Okay, so let's use cubes. We're going to circle our numbers and our units. We're going to circle 7/8 inch of snow, and then we're going to circle 2/3 of yesterday's amount. And then we're going to underline the question, how much snow fell in Harrington today? And here is B, where we're going to box our math action words. And I did that in red for you guys today, and I boxed where it says of yesterday's amount, okay? Now, last week when we were practicing with multiplying fractions, we didn't talk about how it would look in a word problem. So this week, we wanted to make sure you guys knew what that looked like in a word problem. So when the question, or when the story says that the town received 2/3 of yesterday's amount, that means of yesterday's amount means we're going to multiply the 2/3 times the 7/8. Okay, because we're not talking about 2/3 is what they got yesterday. We're saying that they got 2/3 of what they received yesterday. So we're actually talking about 2/3 of 7/8. Okay, so now we're going to take 7/8 times 2/3. And we're just going to work straight across. 7 times 2 is 14, and 8 times 3 is 24. That is a proper fraction, but now we have to simplify. We can divide the numerator and the denominator by 2, since they're both even. And we end up with 7/12, which is in simplest form because the only number that will divide evenly into both of them is 1. Alrighty, the third way you're going to see fractions multiplying with others is multiplying fractions with a mixed number. So what you'll do on that is you will change the mixed number into an improper fraction, and then multiply the numerator straight across and multiply the denominator straight across and simplify. Sounds familiar, huh? Okay, so let's look at this next question. Madeline is making a quilt. She found some pieces of fabric on sale that measured 9/10 of a yard. She's going to use 2.5 of the pieces for the quilt. What is the total length of fabric she will use? Okay, so we're going to circle and underline circle our units and numbers. So we've got 9/10 of a yard, and then we've got 2.5 of the pieces. And underline our question, what is the total length of fabric she will use? And then our box, our math action words. There it is again. 2.5 of the pieces. Okay, so of the pieces for the quilt means 2.5 of the 9/10 of the yard, which means we're going to multiply. So now we're going to have 9/10 times 2 1/2. Okay, so we've got to take this mixed number and turn it into an improper fraction. So we're going to multiply the denominator times the whole number. 2 times 2 is 4. And then we're going to add the numerator, and we're going to get 5. And then we're going to keep the denominator the same, which would be 2. So now we've got 9/10 times 5/2. We're going to multiply the numerator straight across. 9 times 5 is 45. And 10 times 2 is 20. We've got an improper fraction here. We can do two things. We can either simplify now and then turn it into a mixed number, or we can turn it into a mixed number and then simplify the fraction. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and simplify it now because just looking at these two numbers, I know that they can both be divided by 5. So 45 divided by 5 will give us 9, and 20 divided by 5 will give us 4. And so now I've got 9/4. All right, so now it's still improper, but it's simplified. I'm going to take 9 divided by 4. 4 goes into 9 2 times. Gives me a product of 8 and a remainder of 1. Start at your whole number for your mixed number. That's going to be 2 1/4. 2 1/4 is your final answer. Okay, and the last thing that you're going to see is you're going to have to multiply 2 or more mixed numbers. And when you have to do that, make sure that you change both of your mixed numbers, or all three, depends on how many you've got, into improper fractions. Multiply the numerators straight across, multiply the denominator straight across, and then simplify again. So our last question of this video says that Max has a model of a sports car that is 2 1/5 inches long. He is making a larger model that will be 5.5 times the length of the smaller car. How long will the larger model be? Okay, so I've circled our units and words, our numbers. I've underlined the question for you. And I've boxed a couple of math action words. I boxed the word times because anytime you see times, you know you're going to multiply. And what they're talking about, times the length of the small car. So there's that of again, of the small car. So that means times the length of the small car. So we've got 2 1/5 times 5 1/2. I have to turn both of these mixed numbers into improper fractions. So on this first mixed number, we're going to take 5 times 2 is 10, plus 1 is 11, and our denominator stays 5. Times our second mixed number, 2 times 5 is 10, plus 1 is 11, keep our denominator the same, which is 2. Now we're going to multiply straight across. 11 times 11 is 121, and 5 times 2 is 10. We've got an improper fraction. So now we need to take 121. And remember, an improper fraction is when your numerator, your top number, is larger than your denominator, your bottom number. Otherwise, we would call it a proper fraction. So now we've got 10 will not go into 1. 10 will not go into 12. 10 will go, oh, just kidding. Oh, let me get my eraser. All right. 10 will go into 12, I apologize, one time, with a remainder of 2. Bring down the 1. 10 will go into 21 twice. That will give us 20 with a remainder of 1. And our mixed number is going to be 12 and 1/10. 12 and 1/10. All right, guys. Good luck on your quiz. Everyone should make 100. Bye-bye.